Good morning, everyone. Very happy to hear and see all this chat. In day 2 of the Gaming Future Conference, but also day 1 of the professional conference of the Gaming Future. Thank you guys for being here. So I'll give you guys a round of applause for this coming out here. Not too long ago, in 2022, I started what was then the Esports and STEM Festival as a way to connect STEM education, esports, and the video game industry. It has now grown from that to what it is today, an opportunity to be able for us to articulate that gaming has a higher value beyond just entertainment. It is a vehicle that can add richer value to this new and evolving technological, very heavy future that we see ourselves in. Bygone is a time where sci-fi was just fiction. Every single day we're stepping more and more to that becoming somewhat of a reality. And having you guys here today really does demonstrate the fact that you know what, this is important. Not just to us, but to the community, to the city, to this world. And that at this point in time, we are here to be able to give our knowledge, give our expertise to help fuel the innovation that exists. Before I introduce our keynote speaker, I want to have one of the people who helped start this come up to say the words. Verowski, and the director of the Under Armour STEM Festival, round of applause, one.
I met about 4 years ago, and he told me about his vision and the importance and the diversity of the gaming community, especially esports. And I fully believe in his vision and his support and his whole history. And I think it is an important pathway into STEM for many, many people. And I'm so excited that this event has grown to this level, and can't wait to see what goes on next year, because I'm sure Dexter and his team has a lot planned for next year. Please enjoy the next 2 days. It'll be nothing but enjoyment and entertainment. So thank you very much for putting this on, Dexter.
We always need that first person to help believe and to want to take the first step. I'm happy for the fact that there's the opportunity to grow this into what it is today. Speaking of which, there is an individual here who is our keynote speaker, who was one of the also first people who say, hey, I believe what you're doing and I want to support it. Not only that, but the reason why he's a keynote speaker today is because his journey, especially as we enter into this new phase of the Esports STEM Festival to the Gaming Future Conference, what we're looking to do, his career is an extreme example of that. A great way to have a super high-level look of what it means that gaming is not just space entertainment, but it's a vehicle for other opportunities. A vehicle to be able to create different pathways for yourself. The skills you've learned and accumulated in gaming can be applied in other places and enhance and impact other industries. So that being said, the first year I did this event, please welcome up then moderator, but now keynote speaker, CEO of Balti Virtual, Balti.
All right. Somebody to invent a combination of water bottle holder, clicker, and microphone, but until then I'll shuffle around a little bit. So when Dexter first asked me to do this keynote, help kick off this conference, I gotta admit I was a little confused because I thought this was a conference about like how do I get a job in the games industry, and I worked in the industry 1,000 years ago. I don't really know how I got a job in the games industry. It was a completely different time. I mean, this was the This is my workstation back then. We had a CRT monitor and an ugly beige box. I think that mouse had a ball inside it. I mean, this was like the dark ages. But maybe the Diet Coke is the only thing that's still relevant.
Just sit on it. You just like spread.
And so I struggled to figure out, like, what am I going to say to this room of people that are much closer to the game industry than I was. My first thought was maybe I could do one of those like scared straight talks where I come in like a crusty old developer and it's like, turn around before you ruin your life in this industry. like my job was to convince you to give up on your dreams and go get a job in the real world. That, that's what Thanksgiving with family is for. Don't used to do that. Dexter set me straight. He said, this conference isn't about how do I get a job in the industry. It's about how do I build a life with these skills. The next 2 days are going to be packed with learning, connecting, collaborating, and thinking a little bit more broadly about your own career, what next steps you might want to take. And so that's something I can actually help with, because for the last 28 years, I've been building a career that started in the games industry and then applied those skills to a myriad of different things, from education to training to marketing, healthcare, pretty much you name it. And it's been a wild ride, but the whole time, everything I've done has been kind of underpinned by the game development mindset. Technical, creative, collaborative, relentlessly curious. And this weekend is packed with people that share that same DNA. I mean, the speaker lineup here that's actually put together in the team it's awesome. It took me about an hour to fit all these headshots on this one slide. I don't actually know how you're supposed to pick between some of the sessions that are going on at the same time. It sort of feels like drinking from a fire hose. But whatever you pick, you're going to learn something. And more importantly, hopefully connect with some new people, because that's a huge part of this whole thing. And so before we jump into the weekend and kick off 2 days of learning and connecting, I wanted to push this metaphor of gaming your future, maybe a little bit too far, but if you think about your future and your career as a game, it's not like a linear story where there's like a clearly marked beginning and milestones along the way, an end boss fight, whatever. And that can be a little bit misleading when you read the speaker bios. I mean, that's kind of how they are. It's always looking backwards. It's like, she worked on this game, and then she shipped this, and then started a company, and it looks very clean and linear. And the truth is, if your career was a game, it would be much more like a sandbox, in the sandbox, it's open-ended, it's full of experiments, side quests. Hopefully there's more going on in this particular picture right now. A lot of people are starting up. So it's filled with all these experiments, side quests, like some bugs that we'll call features. But at the end, it works just the same. You build something, you see where it breaks, you fix it, you learn, you iterate. And that's really what this weekend is about, and that's certainly what my career has been about. There have been some amazing highs, some huge victories, there have been some crushing failures, and there have been some other times that are just weird that I just soon forget. But through it all, a couple of ideas have emerged, and a couple of tools, we'll call them like tools for your sandbox. And so I want to share those with you all as you jump into this weekend of very targeted and technical learning. These are a few kind of high-level concepts. And so let's jump in. Live, laugh, love. That's it. It really comes down to that. No, the reason I put this slide up is because if I just rattled these concepts off, it would sound just about as hollow as the word art section at Michael's. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of context around these different lessons, how I learned them, where they came up in my career, to hopefully give them a little bit more impact and maybe stick with you. Now keep in mind, these aren't magic spells. You know, you can't just do these things and suddenly things will work out. So much of what happens in your career is about luck, whether it's good or bad. I certainly had my share of both. But I think that these concepts and these ideas can do a few things. And one is they can help you capitalize on good luck. They can help you maybe create a little bit of extra good luck. And they can also help you mitigate the inevitable bad luck that comes along. Like it's just going to happen. So let's jump in. So the first one is do the small things well. And this is a lesson I learned at the very beginning of my career. Speaking of luck, I was super lucky to get in the games industry to begin with. I was playing a video game, turned it over, and saw that it was built by a company called Microprose in Hunt Valley, Maryland, which is about a mile from where I grew up. So I took out the phone book, if you're not familiar, like a paper-based Google back in the day, looked up Microprose, called the front desk, and where I got really lucky was I ended up connecting with a game designer who had a map of work that they were looking to get out of. And they saw me as their potential way out of it. And I was, they were my way into this. And so I got this sweet offer letter for the people in the back. It might be hard to read. But it says, my compensation is the princely sum of $8.50 an hour. And I'm told in no uncertain terms that this internship is going to end in 4 weeks. So, it was a tone before, only put it, but the job that I had inherited, all this work that this designer was trying to get rid of, it was a pretty grueling task working on a World War II flight simulator, and basically I was laying out all of these terrain tiles, and it was using a tile map editor. I had to place about 300,000 of them in total, and it gets worse. The tool for it was this horrendously designed in-house tool that was actually part of the game engine itself. So you launch the game, go into the main menu, press a couple of shortcut keys, and then you're in this Microsoft Paint from hell, where you're dragging a single tile and hitting buttons to rotate the tile. But I dove into this task, and I spent 2 weeks working as hard as anyone possibly could on this task with this terrible tool. It was basically like moving a mountain of sand, one grain at a time. And at the end of those 2 weeks, two things were obvious. One, it would be almost impossible for anyone to put in more work and more time on this stupid tool with all these tasks. And the second thing was, it was going to take me somewhere between the next year and the rest of my life to actually finish all of this. And so I was able to talk one of the programmers into helping me create a new standalone map editor. Crazy idea, I know. Where I could change the code myself as an intern, and there was no danger of breaking the main code base. And so we built this glorious tool. I know there are people from Unity here this weekend, so don't give me ideas. This is pretty sweet. It doesn't look like much, but the beauty of this was I was able to write a couple of scripts. I was able to automate things like drawing the rivers. I didn't have to go and place each tile and rotate it. I could do some randomization. And I was able to finish all the map in time, and right around the time the internship was supposed to end. Conveniently, they sort of forgot about the end date around that, but keep staying on. And my point here isn't to brag about this amazing map editor that I built in 1997, but it is that I never would have gotten a chance to do this if I hadn't just tackled that first totally menial, totally mindless task with as much gusto as anyone could. That gave me the credibility with the team to say, okay, we'll listen to what you have to say. Let's help with this map editor. So that's something that I've taken with me even today, where at Balti, if we sign a new client, we try to do the simple things, like send the invite right, make sure that our emails don't have spelling errors, show up on time for the meeting. All those simple things can start to build a little bit of credibility before you get into the really complex stuff. All right, speaking of the complex stuff, so we shipped European Air War, and it was a pretty big hit as far as flight sims go. It was like Sim of the Year. We won all these awards. We were super fired up, and we were ready to show what we could do after that. We're ready to like really flex. And so our next game was an Unreal Engine powered. That's just like Unreal, or it had a number after it. It was Unreal. It was an Unreal powered game called XCOM Alliance.
Oh my God.
And we graphics, right? We were so proud of what we were building. We dove in, and everyone on the team tackled an intensely technical project. Like we had thrown out their animation system. We were building our own animation system. We had thrown out we had overhauled their rendering system so it could handle these like picture-in-picture views. Again, this was a very old version of the game. And obviously, these things are straightforward now. And our lead was building a really complex enemy behavior system where they could do all these goals and things. It was going really well. We went to E3 and we were voted Action Game of the Year by IGDA. We were pretty pumped. And then disaster struck. Through a truly bizarre set of circumstances, the lead programmer on our game was fired and immediately escorted out of the building. And at the age of 23, I was brought into the studio head's office and told, "This is on you. You got to finish this game in the next 6 months, or the studio is going to close and 100 people are going to lose their stuff." It's not the worst game jam you can have. Is you're fired. So at that point, I realized like, all this complexity, these bridges that we were building that were going to somehow connect to each other in the end, had been a house of cards, and it came completely crashing down on us. And so it wasn't going to be possible. We had to come up with another plan. And the plan was, all right, we can't ship that game in 6 months, but we can ship a game in 6 months. And so we took a lot of the assets, threw away our heavily modified version of Unreal that we were so proud of, started over with the stock Unreal Tournament, and XCOM Enforcer was born, which wasn't an amazing game. It was a very simplistic game, actually. We designed it kind of based off of our favorite arcade games like Smash TV and Gauntlet, with a little bit of Tony Hawk thrown in. But we built the game very, very simply from the ground up. All the systems were, just kind of get it working in a few days, add the complexity later, layer it up. And in the end, we shipped the game. The studio was saved, win condition, we got some decent reviews. Not amazing. We also got some absolutely terrible reviews because most of the gaming press was expecting like the AAA amazing game that we were working on before, and they were pretty pissed with this simple action game we came out with. This is my favorite bad review. It might be a good example of what a teenager could do with the Unreal Engine. Not going to be on target, actually. I think I call it inside the house. And so my point with all this is to say, like, this building a game in 6 months under the pressure cooker of stress is a great way to build things. But this experience did show that, like, starting simply and layering up builds a lot of resilience. And that's something we've taken with us on every other project we've worked on since then. All right, so why did your field of view? A little more broadly into it. When I learned this lesson, the game after that was a lot smoother, especially compared to that absolute debacle. We shipped the Dungeons and Dragons game, it's kind of typical 18-month development cycle. Some highs, some lows. At one point we hit the thing that happens where a competitor puts out a better game than the one you're working on while you're still working on it. And we luckily made the right choice, which was, all right, let's take a step back, let's rebuild it correctly, let's address this, and let's try to make something better rather than just like putting your head in the sand and like shipping something that you know isn't going to land. We worked hard on that game. In the end, our reward for shipping it was we were all called to the company cafeteria and told the studio's closing and you're all losing your jobs. There's someone scraping the Microprose letters off of the window. Anyone that's been in that situation knows it absolutely sucks, and especially at that point, we were pretty pissed. There was kind of a funny side note where I got a call a day later from someone at the head office that was like, actually, could you, we have to fire you next week. Can you finish the German version of our game? That's a great negotiating position to be in, by the way. A few of us ended up getting like a few extra months of severance. But after all that, we didn't want to work for anyone else. So we started our own studio, and Digital Steamworks was born. Our idea was kind of the same as a lot of people here. We were going to build our own game, put together a prototype based on Unreal. It was a superhero game. I guess a third-person open world superhero game was like a kind of a unique idea in 2003. Anyway, we built this great demo that we were proud of. We took it out on this whirlwind tour, and we visited something like 5 publishers in 3 days. We did all the big ones. We did like Nintendo and Microsoft, Seattle, we did EA, Ubisoft, San Francisco, a few others. And we kind of kept hearing the same thing. This, hey, we love your demo, it's great. Can you just keep working on it, like a little bit more? And then maybe we'll fund it. I wish we'd had this conference back then. Hopefully there's a lot more knowledge here for how to deal with this situation. But we didn't have a way. We were basically living off of our unemployment and the extra severance we got from putting out that German version of the game. And so we were stuck. And luckily, our studio head, our kind of biz guy, had some really good connections with friends at other local studios. And so we reached out to them, reached out to Firaxis and Breakaway Games, and asked if there were any small projects that we could help with. And we got lucky. One of them was working on the opening cinematic for Pirates. And we did a bunch of small projects back then, like some defense work with Breakaway, a couple different things, and we sort of paid the bills, we made it work. The point was, we actually realized we liked those projects. We enjoyed working on shorter, more bite-sized things, these things where you kind of jump in, use a completely new technology for 2 or 3 months, and then you're on to the next one. It's not a one-size-fits-all, it's not for everybody, but it was for us, and especially after working for 2, 3, 4 years on a game at a time, we really enjoyed it, and it's something we would have never thought to get into, like if we just started from the beginning. And so this became kind of the basis for the last 22, 23 years of my career. Here are a couple of examples across a few different companies of the types of things you can build with game tech, not for entertainment purely. So we had a simple kind of 2D physics game to teach elementary school kids physics concepts. We had a 3D football trainer to teach NFL players physics concepts. We had a game that was in a museum that ran for like 12 years. It's kind of wild to like have a game just actually running every day for 12 years. It's its own technical problem. This was a game about how to build houses in a way that's more resilient to wildfires. This one in the lower middle was pretty cool. It was a VR game for people that had shoulder injuries. And so you had to reach out and kind of hit these spaceships, and along the process, you're building your range of motion. And the last one, actually, that was a really fun project. We worked with Disney Imagineering to prototype a new type of ride technology. And so each one of these all used like game development skills, but they also had us diving deep into different subject matters and like different areas. And so again, it's not something I would have thought at the outset of my career that I would ever do, but if you're here and you're thinking about the next steps in your career, I'd at least take a look. It's worth thinking, is any of this for me? All right, experiments in public. So this is from the early days of Balti Virtual. We started a company to build virtual reality in 2015. I thought it would be like no more than like 2 or 3 years before everyone in the US had a VR headset. That was slightly off target. But So we didn't have a clear business plan. We were doing a lot of augmented reality, and we were building these little experiments and taking them out and showing them to people. And one of those was a set of temporary tattoos that had a companion app where you could scan the tattoos, it's like a picture of a butterfly, it comes to life on your arm. We call it holo tats, short for hologram tattoos. Clever, I know. But one thing we saw with this was every time we showed it to somebody, they would light up, they'd have fun. The number of people that responded very positively to this simple idea was just one of 20 different experiments we were doing. It was off the charts. And so for a couple of years there, wherever we went, we had a stack of temporary tattoos in our pockets and we handed them out to people and show them how to get our app. And we didn't really have, again, like a main overarching plan for this. But one day, we were at an event that was near Under Armour headquarters. The headline of the event was Shaun White was going to be doing a skateboard demo. Kevin Plank was going to be introducing this. And so we were there doing our thing, handing out tattoos, showing kids how to use this app. The doors open, Kevin Plank, founder of Under Armour, is walking in. And one of the kids that was at our table runs up and says, Dad, check this out. Shows him our tattoos. And like almost immediately, we had a project working with Under Armour to take the exact same technology that had gone into those temporary tattoos and to bring it to retail stores. Never could have planned this, never could have scripted it, but just the idea of putting stuff out there, seeing where it goes, it's immensely powerful. And this actually became the basis of our business for about 5 years. Not just Under Armour, but taking the same tech, we did the same thing with Hallmark, where we had greeting cards that came to life. We worked with wall decals, like Fathead, like Disney and Marvel characters. We worked on teaching kids fractions with Sylvan Learning with the exact same technology. And none of it we could have scripted. It all just came out of sort of experimenting and putting things out there. And that's one of the things I love about this industry is you never really know where the next experiment is going to lead. And I think the value of just shipping stuff is so underrated. So, all right, a couple more, and we'll get on with the day. So this might seem kind of obvious, joining community, find mentors, is small, people in the back, sorry. But when I was coming up, I sort of idolized this, this notion of the lone developer, like working in his or her garage, cranking away on this brilliant thing, and then one day they release to the world, and there's much applause, and everyone can see once and for all how much of a genius they are. I mean, more often than not, that person looks like this. It never really works that way. And so, I think I've already shown, like in the Digital Steamworks example, the power of community, the power of having connections. Just having those friends at Firaxis and Breakaway saved our company when we ran into a brick wall. And there have been so many examples over the years of times when asking someone a question or even just having someone to bounce an idea off of unlocked something that would have completely had us stuck. And there's a special version of this, which is a mentor, where someone more experienced spends a little bit of their time and energy helping someone less experienced along a problem. The amount of the kind of biz term is like leverage, which I think is sort of annoying, but if you think about it in like a physics term, like they're pushing a little bit on the lever and moving the other end a lot. And I think that mentors are an absolutely vital part of that. I've been lucky to have some really wonderful mentors throughout the course of my career, and they all happen pretty organically. Like, I never just sent someone a LinkedIn message, like, will you be my mentor? Yes, no. But that being said, I have come across a few ideas that can help you sort of attract and connect with people that can help you. The first one is just show up to places where more experienced people are. So, congrats, check, step one. The second is to connect with them with very targeted, specific questions. Like, and ideally ones that show that you've done a fair amount of work. So it's not just like, how do I get a job? But more like, I'm working on this system for my game. I've tried A, B, C, and D. This is the thing that stuck. And I think the two questions are, is there anything you can recommend? Or is there someone else you can recommend that I talk to? Because sometimes that mentor, that person that's going to unlock is one step away or 2 steps away. And that's where some of my best experiences have come. One final thing I meant was, it's a two-way street, right? So if you look around this room, there are people who are more experienced, there are people who are less experienced. And as you move on in your career, there are going to be more and more people who have less experience, more opportunities for you to be a mentor. And so, the more community you can engage with, whether it's peers, mentors, and mentees, the better off you are in the long run. All right, one more, then we'll get on. Game dev skills are superpowers. This sounds like I'm pandering to this audience, I understand, but I really mean this in two ways. One is like a very surface level, literal type of way, and that is, there are all these things that you can do with game development tools that can unlock great things in the real world. So these are, I showed the examples that we did before. These are examples that other people have done. This is a game to help burn victims experience less pain during treatment. A game to help seniors improve their balance or reduce falls. A game to help fast food workers make better chicken. Now the important stuff, like learning trades like HVAC repair. The amount of knowledge transfer that can happen in these things is remarkable. And even things outside of that where it's like, interactive filming with XR volumes or architectural visualization. So at a very kind of like surface literal level, these skills can apply in so many different ways. But I think at like a little bit more deeper philosophical level, working on games is like doing a normal career in hard mode. And the way I mean that is in a bunch of ways. A, the actual skills that you're doing, the actual challenges you're tackling are so much harder than the real world. You're working with extremely limited resources. You're trying to squeeze as much out of your CPU and your GPU and fit it in RAM and make sure you can get things done within your Polygon budget. Make sure you get things done within your personal time budget. Like it's working with intense constraints. The other feature is you're working for some of the most demanding users on the planet. Like gamers are pretty intense. Like, I don't think Chuck from accounting is getting hate mail because his new invoice system isn't running at 60 frames per second. And your UI, UX skills, like the care and thought you have to put into your design have to be absolutely top-notch, because if someone doesn't get it right away, they're just going to put it down and move on to the next thing. Like no one's going to go to a 30-minute webinar to understand the features of your new interface. Chuck sends that webinar twice a week, so it's a completely different world. And I think, if nothing else, hopefully all these highs and lows have shown that working on games builds a lot of resilience. We deal with a lot of struggles. It's not a clear-cut path. And so I think, again, at one level, you have these superpowers. You can build all this different stuff in the real world. And I think another deeper, more philosophical level, you're really building up yourself. You're building up your own potential and your own resiliency. So, let's take it home. Here's that word art shelf, Michael's again, now fully stocked with this new concept. I know these aren't one size fits all, these aren't for everybody, but hopefully there's one or two concepts in here that might help frame the rest of the weekend for you as you go forward into all these great sessions that they have planned. And before we go, I want to just circle back quickly. Just take a moment to think about your own personal sandbox. what experiments do you want to run in your career? What tools do you want to develop? Who do you want to collaborate with? Because there's no, like, this is a chance to expand and build your future career. You've done the first step by showing up. You're about to head out to all these great sessions that are planned. And I'd love for you all to get the most out of them as possible. And so, quickly, there's no, like again, there's no way in your career. You know, there's no end boss, no credit screen. It's all about what you do, the experiments you run, and how you can tinker in that sandbox. And when you look back, certainly as I have, I realized that all those experiments, all those dead ends, all those obstacles to overcome, those have really been the main quest all along. And so I hope you have an awesome time this weekend. Good luck, have fun, keep playing.
Even unlocked, yes, I heard the applause, I can't. Awesome, well, thank you guys so much for coming here. Before I let you guys off into the wild, this weekend was meant to do two things. First and foremost, just kind of prove myself that I know that what this could have been is. And you guys being here is an example of that. From starting out at Spark Baltimore with just 40 of us, to now being in a room where I would say total 500 people combined, from high school students to teachers in the school to you guys here, sign up to be here for the whole weekend. And that's just the start. And the second thing is, this thing most important, is proving that this is needed. This wasn't the easiest to pull off. And I mean, I'm still trying to stick the landing, weeks not over yet. But you guys being here demonstrates that this is a need. Not just in our community, in this city. This is a need for what we're looking to do. And hopefully, the other potential partners who come to learn, who come to check it out, are seeing that this is something that can be done. And as a community, we do what we do best, we come together and we pull this off. Because I couldn't do it by myself, and I know for a fact that it's what happened. It was just me. So once again, thank you guys so much for coming and for being here. And as soon as I release you guys, we have a multitude of different talks, different panels that will be going on throughout the day. So please enjoy, please speak to the speakers, network. This is the opportunity to have you guys to meet people who normally wouldn't meet each other, or people who haven't seen each other for a long time. It's an opportunity to rekindle, reconnect, collaborate, plan, and grow. And with all things, remember, when you game with a purpose. Because when you game with a purpose, you game for good. Thank you so much, guys. Enjoy the weekend.